All right, ladies and gentlemen around the Delaware Valley, welcome to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. We've got a fantastic broadcast. We're sponsored by Quinn Law Group. We're across the country today, Sean. We got an awesome guest.
Yep.
And certainly we're extremely happy to have him on. If you will, introduce our guest.
Yeah. Listen, when we first started to go down this pathway years ago, we started this show. The idea behind it was to give a voice, much like our clients that don't always have a voice or don't have a voice that's heard, is to move away from the billboards, move away from the folks that maybe you see on TV, household names, and give a voice to some of the folks that are really making a difference in the lives of their clients and really doing that work. Then when we moved our platform, Joe, from just the Philly market where we are, we decided that, when we started filming these, going on Zoom, the idea was let's expand our reach. Let's move beyond Philadelphia. And this is our first one. This is our first time where we are making that move. And, today on Top Lawyer, I have a good friend joining me. We actually just met within the last couple of months and we hit it off. My friend, he's coming to join us all the way from Dallas, and I know all our Philadelphia community is going to say the magic welcome to Philadelphia by saying Dallas sucks.
That's right.
But a little background. He's the son of Honduran immigrants. He's the first in his family to go to college. He's a graduate of University of Texas and SMU's Dedman Law School, and he's the founder of what is one of the coolest names in the game, Guardia Law. It's a bilingual personal injury firm in Dallas, built to fight for the people that the insurance companies and frankly, big business try to push around. He's my friend, Rolando Quesada. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Excited to be here, man. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm so glad to hang out with you guys.
Well, it's great to have you, no question. I was excited, and I will tell you, my only question, really, and I think I could just roll out, is how did you become such a big Eagles fan? That's the important question. We're just kidding.
Yeah, and I mean, Rolando wasn't originally scheduled to be on the show today, and one of our friends who had something going on with the family had to cancel at the last minute. First guy I thought of was Rolando to jump on and help us out. And plus he owed us after his Rangers took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies this weekend. So he really had to do us a service.
Yeah, it's a good point. And by the way, Rolando is, we talked before the show, big sports fan. By the way, we have a lot of fun, not only on the program, and Sean's not only was a college football player, but a big baseball player and all. And so we have a lot of fun there, and it's just a cool thing with the Dallas and Eagles thing. Now, I don't think it's a joke. It's funny that you guys are personal injury attorneys. Rolando, you were aware that here in Philly, before they built the link, that we had a prison at Veteran Stadium. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah,
it was down in the basement. We had part of a lore of and Seamus McCaffrey, who later moved up the ranks and became Supreme Court justice, was pretty cool. He was the judge that presided over the menacing. They would bring them down from the 700 level down to the basement for adjudication. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so we was that we would have it was I think I wish they would have taped some of those things. Okay, but I will say
I don't know if that would have made court TV. It would certainly would have been good. But Rolando, one of the things that we've talked about this before because we talk. We're starting a monthly chat just to kind of help each other out. But one of the things that I really found compelling about your story, beyond the son of immigrant parents and things like that, is naming of your firm in a world where a lot of firms are just, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, right? And they have their names on the firm. You chose to go the other way, and your firm is really new, and you built it within the past year. What went into the story behind Guardia Law, and I know there's a nod to your family's history in that name. So maybe you could tell a little bit about that story.
Yeah, man. I mean, I basically thought about things that matter to me, and people want to connect with, something that uh, is authentic. And so I just had to kind of dig in and figure out what am I really about? Why am I doing this? My dad served in the military in his country, and Honduras at the time is pretty dangerous political atmosphere. You really have the dangers of maybe a coup happening. So I thought one, I wanted to honor his work and his legacy, and also it's just about protecting. A lot of people when they're hurt or in a bad situation, they don't want to just hear about you're going to beat somebody up. They want to know how you're going to take care of them. And so, Sean, when I started talking to you and I see how you operate your firm, and when I think about how I want to build my firm, I think that there's a sense of people want when something bad happens that you're going to stand up for them, you're going to stick with them, you're going to have their back, rather than just saying I'm going to go beat people up. It's just that's not necessarily where I think our practice area is going. So, yeah, I used to give my dad a hard time. He'd always tell me about his service, and I was like, I was a kid, I didn't know any better. I was like, I don't know what this means, but it's actually a big deal to be on the honor guard and protecting the president of a country with your life, and that's what he did. So. My mom's in daycare. She did daycare. She's still doing daycare. She's been doing daycare for 35 years now. So, she takes care of kids. So I just wanted to talk to people that I'm going to serve in a different way. And that was kind of the idea. And it also helps stand out. I mean, my name may be memorable or not, but the idea, that's pretty cool. And I'll tell you, I was able to work with a guy here in Texas from San Antonio. His name's Kevin Kraft, and he designed our whole visuals, helping us come up with our themes for colors and everything. So a lot of thought went into it, for our brand.
Yeah, I will say it's super thoughtful. It was one of the things that I first said to you when I just love the idea. And honestly, if I could go back 13 years ago when I started our firm, I probably would have come up with something along those lines, a name. I think the industry is going more towards a name that is not always assigned or associated with a founder. Don't get me wrong, I take pride in my name being on the door, but at the same point, you do want to tell your story, and sometimes your name doesn't tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sean, and Rolando, what got you to open up the firm?
Yeah.
Like, how long were you a lawyer? Okay, number one, and then number two, what inspired you to say, "Hey, I'm going to put my own placard on the door, and do this thing the way I want to do it."
I mean, just being around the community and working for big firms, small firms, at some point you just start dreaming real big. And I had an opportunity where I'd saved up enough to go for it and figured I'd learned enough to do it. I've been practicing now 13 years licensed. And once you kind of do the work for a while, you kind of start having big dreams about how you think you can do it for yourself. And that I just took the leap of faith, man. It's just talking to my wife. I got two kids. So get this, guys. I decided to start my firm a week before my second son is born. If you want to talk about making sure we stay busy, and that was it, man. I just felt it in the heart of this time, and now we're just dreaming big and getting after it.
Yeah, so you've done that big firm world. You've worked in super busy personal injury firms. What did you feel was missing? I know what it was like for me and my experience moving on from a firm that I had been at for 11 plus years and probably could have spent the rest of my career at. But I felt there was something missing in my own career. There was a void in service that. So what did you identify not only about yourself but about making that move from that big firm style to to some extent you're doing it all.
Mhm. Yeah, man, there's big firms are great. They have a lot of advantages built in. They have a lot of resources, a lot of people. I just wanted to connect with my clients differently. And I think nowadays, right now, the opportunities are limitless because information's available. You can serve the way you're thinking about. And I just wanted to connect with more people. Frankly, man, Sean, you and I wouldn't have had a chance to talk ever because I'd be too busy in my little box somewhere working away on my, hundreds of files. And I'd always work through lunch. I'd go get in early, get out late. And, I wouldn't spend time connecting with other lawyers across the country or getting a chance to meet people. So part of it was just as simple as connecting with humans again. Technology gives us a lot of great stuff, but it's also isolative at times. And so, really, it just helped open up the door to spend time with people because that's the part that I love. I love meeting with my team. I love meeting other leaders. I love sitting down and having lunch with somebody. So, I think the big missing piece for some of these larger places is it's hard for them to provide personal care and connection to their clients when this is a people business. It's like I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant where you get served by a little robot. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. I kind of like the server coming in and saying hi
Right.
and shaking my hand after we're done or something. It's a little robot coming with my food doesn't feel as good.
Well, I noticed I was doing some research, um, and what I loved about kind of obviously it's a bilingual firm, and so you accommodate so many different types of ethnicities, and the culture is welcoming, but it's also a family oriented firm, and I saw that on your on the website. Talk about that because immediately I felt when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, it's a welcoming firm, but talk about the family part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys wouldn't believe this, but so 16 years ago, I was in class with my professor, Professor George Martinez. He was one of my references on my resume. I was in his first year law school course. Come to find out by total coincidence, because I got, on the app one day of, trying to date, one of these dating apps. I saw met my wife. Her dad was my former law professor. And so you wouldn't believe it, but I was giving her a hard time to say, hey, did you check with your dad? Did you get a transcript? You make sure I didn't get a D in his class? I'm not. Hey, for anybody out there in class, make sure you do a good job for. You don't know if that's going to be your future spouse,
Right,
that
right.
teacher's kid, right?
That is a
So
small world. By the way, when did you meet her? But before, after he'd already taught you, or during, or
we met 10 years for complete coincidence later after I was already out of school. And
okay,
so we met and it was just complete chance that I noticed one of her pictures had this guy on it. And I'm like, hey, is that your dad? And she was like, yeah, that's my dad. And I'm like, oh, that's my old professor. So now I get to hang out at his house and we get to chit chat and our kids. I thought hard about their names. So I'm a junior. My dad's Rolando Quesada, right? He's senior. And one of the things I felt was like I wanted to give my kids maybe a different type of name. I didn't want to just continue that. Nothing against it. I just wanted to do something different. So our kids, we got two boys, Joaquin and Maxi or Maximilian. Those are our two boys, and part of the motivation is maybe one day we pass the business on to these kids if they want it, and if not, we'll keep going. I'll keep working until I got nothing else to give.
Yeah, that's great.
it is. I do want to say something to Sean. Your son's name is?
Braden.
Okay, I'm going to give you both some insight. My name is Joe Doherty the third. My son is Joe Doherty the fourth. Let me tell you something. I joke around with him now. He's 40. That I'm changing his name because you get so much mail. Okay,
Yeah.
it is nuts. And imagine if it's an IRS. I mean, we've had some like
Right.
I'm like, did we file? It's crazy. So it's cool having my grandfather's name and my dad's, but it could be confusing plenty of times. So good stuff, guys. Good.
Yeah. So my family, my wife was really good about she's like, yeah, we're not going to have a Sean Jr. The world can only have one of you. And she's like, there should be no, continuation of this line of torture, in our household. So, I tried for Brady. It was right around the time that Brady Quinn was dominating for Notre Dame. But my wife's like, what if he sucks? What if he's not good at the next level? So she went with Braden, and here we are. So, listen, I still think Brady Quinn was an awesome quarterback. Didn't quite. He went to the Browns. What can you expect?
Well, I gotta
Yeah.
ask, do y'all have nicknames for your kids yet? Has that been built into the?
Yeah, I mean, his friends call him B. It's really, really shocking. We call him Bray.
Yeah, Joe Doc is
Or in my son's world, he thinks he's the king. So, he goes by that. King Braden.
It's funny you bring up, we talk a lot about sports and all that, but also Did you play any sports, Rolando?
Oh my God, I played everything and I was awful at everything. Why'd you think I'd become a lawyer, man? If I had a jump shot, I'd be balling out in Dallas right now. We don't have anybody out here. Okay.
Well, it's a Sean. I mean, by the way, you look like a linebacker. And I was going to say you
Hey,
brought a linebacker on the show to.
Listen, we got to find our people, and it's funny that Rolando and I met, kind of within the last 3-4 months through a group called Best Era, Ryan McKean's group. Shout out to Ryan. We popped on. We were on in like an office hours, and we hit it off, and then have maintained a kind of a friendship. But I saw a lot in Rolando opening up his firm within the past year that I saw in myself 13 years ago, but didn't have that sounding board that you really need. And I think one of the mistakes that we make in our founder journey is not seeking help and not asking for help. We do such a good job of telling the world that we are kicking butt, settling all these cases, everything's great, and we don't worry about we worry about being a great lawyer and putting out this image. And I say the founder life is sort of like Instagram life. There's a facade that's on Instagram of what founder life is really like, and no one really spends the time to show you that this is a roller coaster and it's a marathon at the same time. And I wish I had sought out that advice, had gone and met folks and told me, hey, year 2 is going to suck. These are challenging years as you are building. And there's a reason that most businesses do not last a year, because they're either undercapitalized, poor leadership, and a lot of us in the professional services, law, accounting, we can get by and just survive and continue to do that because to some extent capitalization, other than funding our cases, isn't tremendously like running a company building widgets where you need so much inventory. Our inventory is in our brains. And one of the things that I wish that somebody had taught me is go out, get a mentor, get folks that can really show you how to get there. Where I am today would not have taken 13 years had I done that earlier.
It's funny because I have had the Rolando, we've been doing the legal radio for about 10 years. Okay. And we have a real select network of firms that own their own broadcasts. And I've had the opportunity to, obviously interview and participate on a lot of different shows. But one of the things that, as Sean is talking, it brings to mind, alluding to being a lawyer and working hard and being successful is one thing. Then you become a firm owner and a business owner. And now it's a different ball game. Okay. And I, having been an entrepreneur myself and being passionate about business, there are so many different models. Okay. And you guys are, Sean, you have how many attorneys in your firm?
So there were 3 lawyers total, 12 deep in terms of a team.
So Rolando, are you a solo right now?
Yeah, I have a solo and I got a part-time help. And I got my dog and my wife who's going to help with the firm as well. So we're a small team.
Yeah.
But the point is, and
that's where I was year 1. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. But the reason I ask is because firms are like marriages, for crying out loud, and so are partnerships. And I've had business partnerships, that you just,
But one of the things, Joe, I think, and Rolando, I'm going to ask you to jump in and share your experience. As we've learned a lot and really kind of drilled down partnerships, you're going to get to those points where you have those questions about development. I think the more I realize it is, and I think you realize this quicker than I did, it's what do you stand for? Mm-hmm. And what is the culture that you're trying to build in your firm? Because that will then guide a lot of your decisions moving forward. And I didn't come with this Yoda level knowledge without all the, getting my butt kicked on a lot of bad decisions along the way. So, what have you learned in this kind of this early entrepreneur journey about the journey and about yourself?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that if there's one thing I give out on this time that we do have together, it's this. The the most important thing I've learned is what you're doing with your career, what you're doing with your life. It all depends on how far you go with the people around you and who you connect with. And right now, our society is in a position where we're becoming more isolated. It's easy to just talk to a computer. It's easy to just work through lunch. It's easy to just grind on the work that you have. But your relationships, the people that care about you, your champions, they're all around you and they're waiting for you to connect with them. Your biggest advocates are going to carry you where you want to go. Everything I've accomplished has been on the backs of people who believed in me, carried me, helped me. The paralegal I brought to these huge firms, she's now a supervisor there, and she's the one who helped watch my back and help me run things when I'm out in court or doing whatever. And the second thing is, besides connecting with people like mentors that I have that I owe my career to, like Judge I interned for, Judge Hoffman, my professor from college, Dr. Champagne. I bombed the LSAT, and I didn't want to. I thought maybe I wasn't cut out to be a lawyer. These people motivated me to keep going. The second thing is these people who are, I worked at 300-person firms, okay? They don't have it all figured out. I know that it might seem like, oh, they've got it all figured out, but that's just like marketing and imaging. These are real people with flesh and blood who worry about personnel decisions. They make bad decisions here, they make good decisions there, but they worry about, man, how am I going to make this work? I don't know what's happening here. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just like me, who's just starting out. And I know that because I've been sitting in these meetings with these leaders, and there's some of them are succeeding, some of them are struggling. But point is, nobody's got it all figured out as much as they try to portray sometimes because they have to. And it's not even an ego thing. It's just that you can't exactly go online and say, hey guys, I'm worried about, I've made a bad decision today and here's what it looks like. Most of the time, maybe I can do that. But so those are the two things, man, is I think it's so important to connect with people, cultivate your relationships, because those connections, they're what drive your dreams and your opportunities. As much as good grades and all this other stuff I thought, or doing great work product that I thought was so good, that stuff never got me really anywhere. The stuff that was breakthrough was relationships and people and, AI and all that other stuff. I love it, but it's not replacing that.
Yeah. How do you go about, like, and I can tell you, in the time that we've met and talked together, you know, you want people that root for you, right? And the people that are going to champion you. And I can tell you, one of the reasons that we connected is you're somebody that's easy to root for. And unlike your Dallas Cowboys, but listen, we all have our cross to bear, right? So you're easy to root for, and I guess this is a nod to one of our other members of our little best era club, Jay Rouen, and his analog marketing. So how are you going about building your little empire, and step by step, and how are you going about marketing, connecting, both within your community and then nationally?
I would say something I learned, Sean, is I guess I always started like at firms with like no resources and everybody kind of like not knowing me and not maybe caring about me. And so I had to learn how to find people to like cultivate their trust and like get them to basically help me. And life is a team sport, and that's why I think team sports a perfect metaphor for life. You try to, if you're like the Dallas Cowboys, you make bad decisions on personnel, you make bad decisions on marketing versus what works on the field. You try to, put the wrong players in the wrong position. Of course you're going to fail. You have to have a cohesive team. And what I learned is to build a team and a community that roots for you. It starts with you believing in others and rooting for others and investing in others. You have to put others first. And then when you show that you can get results through the power of your conviction, the power of your belief and your own work ethic and example, then people come back and then they start believing in you. But you have to take that leap of faith first. by investing in others. And yeah, some people take advantage, some people make fun of you. Guess what? There's people who are companies that I was working at, these firms, they needed big changes fast or else we were going to fail. There were lawyers actively rooting that we fail just because it was ideas that I was trying to implement to help the firm grow. So you're going to find people that don't like you no matter what. You might as well go find the people that are going to root for you, that are going to believe in you. And it starts with you reaching out and spending that time investing in them, investing in that friendship and relationship. Jay Ruane's talked about making it simple to like go connect with people through analog marketing. And it just really is showing gratitude. It's just being consistent with following up and connecting. Some people naturally do that, but you have to make it an effort to stick with it. And then you've got people like worked with Delisi Friday, who's a coach, and she simplified things real easy. It's really just making friends as you go into your professional life. As a lawyer, you still need to make friends. You still need to go and you didn't forget how to make friends. So what do you think, Sean? Is that stuff that kind of hits you in your heart and mind about something that there's something there with that? What do you think?
I think, listen, I always start from the same place, whether I'm talking about my kid, his friends, or the people I'm around. Be a good person. Be a genuinely good human being. And then good karma, whether it's business or life, the more you give in life, the more you get. The more you share, the more people share back. But just like be a likable, genuine person that is willing to open up, show you all that they got, and in a world of fakeness and I want people that shoot straight. I'm a straight shooter. It's one of the things that one of our core values as a firm is straight talk. We're not doing that. And I think it goes so well. I surround myself with people that share those values, business and personal and otherwise.
I love that.
Let me jump in there, because the first thing that I think of, because you're talking about surrounding yourself with good people, and really that impacts you, but also it carries over to the clients, right? And so the culture of the firm, okay, when you're surrounding yourself with those good people, my wife used to say, she ran a salon in Center City, Philly, and she always wouldn't give herself the credit. And I would say to her, "You're crazy. You have, in a positive sense, you take ownership of this firm or this business, not in that she felt like she was the owner, but that she cared about it, and she cared about when people called and accommodating them and doing. And I would say to her, it's harder to find a handful of people like you on than it is brain surgeons on Market Street in Philly. Like, in other words, so surrounding yourself with good people and building a culture like that and being influenced by that type of culture. Do you find that that type of culture carries over? You've got that team into the clients and with that family atmosphere out. Rolando first, and then of course Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so, because if your team feels good and they believe in you, you don't got to be checking on them. You don't got to be micromanaging them. You don't got to be asking, did you do this? They're just going to do it because they care about you and they want you to succeed because they believe in you. When my mom came to this country, my dad, he sold vitamins door to door, okay, out of a briefcase. He sold insurance. Eventually he got a mobile catering truck. And sometimes he would just bring it to food sites to sell, and sometimes he would bring it to family and give away food for free because, that was his way of being generous to others. Now, my dad made a lot of mistakes in life. He made mistakes with money, he made mistakes with getting in trouble, and all kinds of stuff that he dealt with in his life. And thank God he's still alive today. He just had his 86th birthday, February.
God bless.
Awesome.
But one thing I learned from him is how important it is to talk to people and how important it is to be generous. And that's where I learned from, is just basically how giving he is. Anything he'd give you the shirt off of his back, because I think he just put it in his mind that he wants to do good. But if you take care of your people around you, they take care of you in return. And it's not you're trading anything, it's just genuine. And I think that's the difference. It's not a transaction, it just comes from people's voluntary will. And that's when you really win. When you have people who believe in you because it's in their heart, already, then you've got real champions and advocates on your behalf looking out for you.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, let me kind of jump in on that point,
Yeah.
Joe. And I think it, a lot of people have done a lot more work on themselves and get to that place where they're able to trust. And I think that's one of the challenging things of when you are in this business of being a lawyer. You know you can trust yourself. You know you're good at the work. And I think one of the biggest challenges that a lot of lawyers have is letting go and trusting other people to get that work done.
yeah,
Uh, I'm 25 years into this game of being a lawyer. I didn't learn that. I mean, I learned it, but then I would like a boomerang. I would pull back. It would be I give a little bit, I take four back. I give a little bit, I take four back, and it was really hard for me to have enough trust. And some of that is finding the right talent, and some of that is developing the talent you already have. And one of the things that I've really focused on within the past year is it kind of crystallized. I don't know if you've ever read Jocko Willitz's,
Mhm.
Total Ownership. And if you haven't, it's not that I agree with Jocko on everything in life, but I think the concept of owning a responsibility, owning a task, and if our intake lead Tommy LaSpada is I want to give him the ownership over that team. I want to let them, really own. If you find a problem in the firm, you own that problem now. There's no more passing the buck. Everyone's motto here is the buck stops with me, and you have to have that accountability, and also give them the tools and the systems and the ability to make decisions. Um, Within the past 6 months, I have noticed tremendous growth within my team, and it has really given me the ability, probably for the first time in 20 plus years, where I can absolutely say that. And I was having this discussion literally in the barber's chair this morning about having the confidence in my team to know that I could take a vacation tomorrow and know that the ship would be running and still floating when I get back in a week now. And I haven't always been able to say that.
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. I totally relate to that, and it's funny because that is it's a tribute to the work you've put in and with the team you've surrounded yourself with. Um, and one of the it's so having a trusted team around you, that is passionate about everything that's going on, bought into to the culture and the firm will take you everywhere and also add years to your life because there are, I think we do know this, and it's a science in a lot of ways, in regards to how do you grow successfully grow. Because I know one attorney who's a good guy and all, but he trusts no one, and
Mhm.
he'll tell you, I trust no one to do anything. It has to be, and I get that.
I know who that lawyer is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and so
Yeah.
and then yet you have these firms with hundreds of people, plaintiffs, and they may be on the billboards and all that, but the fact is they figured out a way to be able to expand and do it. So there's an art to all that, and so it's very admirable. But I guess you take one step at a time. Obviously, you've been doing this, for 25 years, and Rolando's going to be buying out that big TV firm, that big billboard firm that
Oh yeah.
spends $100 million a year, but give them 2 years, and
Just give
that
me a little time. And that's something I'm dying to ask is, from y'all, you have so much experience, as Texans, we say y'all, so I don't know what's
yeah.
going on. Uh,
I say it too
how,
when I don't feel like typing two words.
what, can you tell me, because I'm dying to know, what have y'all done to build trust in your team? Because I think life is a team sport. How do you build trust? How have y'all dealt with that starting out? I'm so curious.
Yeah, for me, starts with honesty and transparency and clear expectations. I think in the past, I have internalized frustration. I have not coached up. And it's so crazy when you think, here's a guy that his entire life played sports, coached travel baseball for a decade, and suddenly when he walked into his firm, he forgets his coaching hat and quickly reverts into meathead lawyer, just going to grind. You see over my shoulder, it says grit, and those are good characteristics to have to work through things. But I'm a grinder by nature. Like that's just who I am. Like I'm a guy who toils in the trenches. Like that's just my mentality. And it was the only way I ever knew. Like it was the only way. But I had to, you start to listen. And once I started opening my ears and started hearing things, Gary Vee's comment about like radical candor and being, candid but nice while you're doing it, and start having those honest conversations about what your expectations are, starting to build systems within the firm so I wasn't the bottleneck all the time, but I was also clear about what my expectations were for everybody and everything, and starting to hold people accountable. One of the mistakes I made for years was holding on to people in my firm that were good performers but crappy teammates and didn't play well in the sandbox with others. And you have to learn to let go. Sometimes you got to remove an organ to grow another one, so to speak, or, that's a terrible analogy. But to grow, you sometimes have to cut back. It's like a better analogy would be like pruning your trees. Prune a little bit, it has better growth. But the reality is, you have to kind of do that. And then also, just really communicating where things are. I think in anything, if people understand that they are part of the solution and part of the growth and get to enjoy that growth with you and make this like this is their firm, not just my firm. It took me a really long time to get here. We turned a corner, but those were the things that I had to reevaluate who I was before I could ever become a better leader. And I realized that I spent 20 plus years cosplaying as a leader, and I wasn't. And it was because I didn't know how to lead the right way. And I think I'm getting there now. And still, listen, the best version of my firm is the one I have today. The next best version will be the one I have tomorrow. And that's how I believe every day.
That's awesome, man. That's a masterclass and a lot of wisdom that takes a long time for people to find.
The first thing, Sean, but as you were talking and you were going through a lot of the first thing I was equating everything up. I'm going, okay, you put all that together and that's called leadership right there. Okay. And ultimately speaking, it ain't easy to be a leader. And sometimes you got to make difficult decisions. We do a lot of labor union stuff here in Philly, and great labor leaders. It's about the clients. It's about the firm. It's about the product. And sometimes, everything's not pretty and all, like you said, honesty sometimes, but the fact is that type of leadership and straight shooting like that, that's ultimately important. I tell every labor leader the reason that's important is and being a straight shooter and being a great leader. And it's about the union and its members, not about the leader. Okay, not about the leader's ego. Same with the firm, is because when that labor leader has to give those members bad news, we're not getting a raise this time, they'll know it's because they're thinking in their best interest. Well, it's the same situation. Sean, communications, how important is that? Also, when it comes to communicating, and also sometimes knowing when not to communicate. I mean, but talk about the importance of that, in a firm setting.
So I think communication in two aspects, and that is internal and external, in a lot of it, and I think I've always been pretty good in the external part. And that is talking to our clients, being blatant. Listen, Rolando's in the same boat I am. We fund the expenses on these cases. It doesn't do us any good to lie to our clients about the prospects, right? We are investing our time and money. The one thing we got to be with them is straight up. You got a good case, you got a bad case. We're not the right firm for you. I think I've always been somewhat transparent with clients about the prospects and things like that. Where I was never really good was internal within the firm and really kind of understanding and frankly, I mean, probably not the most sensitive human being on the planet. So like, there's certain things that like I just don't do well when there's infighting and nonsense that goes along. Like what's the phrase? Every new level you face a new devil. And as you grow, managing people is sometimes difficult for people that are not touchy-feely with their own emotions. Although I'm getting there. I'm trying to be a better human in the process. But, I think, listen, if we are going to hold ourselves out as the voice of the voiceless and give clear communication to clients, we have to be held to that same standard in-house.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly is. And that comes over time,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, everybody lives and learns with their mistakes. And certainly leadership, in my opinion, is the answer.
I'm interested, Rolando, your take on that and what you've noticed about, obviously when you're running a small team, you're somewhat the chief cook and bottle washer. So a lot of these things, these communications are talks in your own head and building it up and building it out. But you've obviously seen it from the other side in big firms and how important communication is and also take us through your approach with your clients and how you go about making sure that you don't overpromise, because I think that's something that lawyers gets them into hot water far too often.
Man, I mean, that's the key. People want to hear from their lawyer, and keep in mind, like you said, right now I'm acting like the bank. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. My time, my treasure, my effort is all going into someone's case, so I have to believe in it, obviously, but also have to level with them, and you have to tell them, hey, you have a tough case. I think it's developing that relationship with them through, honestly, sometimes you got to hop on video and talk to each other. You have to really listen on the phone. Yeah, I think the thing is, lawyers, we kind of lose our humanity because law school just beats it out of us to become more, I don't know, legalistic and academic when this is the people business for most
And
of us.
and if law school doesn't, running your business will.
Yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
well, there's a tendency to try to reduce everything to like a number or report, but these are people and they have stories, and we forget about that during the course of our day to day and busyness. And look, I mean, so like my boys are just getting into my oldest, my 2.5-year-old, he's just getting into baseball, right? Now, my favorite thing about him is that my wife was pregnant with him during the Texas Rangers. Yes, I'm bringing it back, Phillies fans. Rangers World Series run. Okay, we were pregnant with our first boy, and if you're ever wondering about like the effect of a leader on a group, the Rangers were the worst team by a mile the season before,
They were.
and Bruce Bochy transformed that team because Chris Young figured out, I need to bring this guy out of retirement to whip this whole team into shape. And he did. And he did it through relationship building and communication, no nonsense. Everything, Sean, you're talking about. I mean, that's right out of what Bruce did with the Rangers. And so, yeah, they had a magical run, but it started with they had the pieces and they had to add some, but he figured out what was working and what wasn't. So even for a firm of our size, I have to have honest conversations with our clients. They like that. They like hearing from us in a way that's transparent. I have to have honest conversations with myself and with my wife, our director, right? I mean, we have to be very honest about what we're able to do, what we're struggling with. So I think this is kind of taking off the mask, right? Of saying, oh, I've got it all figured out, everything's okay. And being honest, hey, this was a bad decision. Hey, we need to look at how we're going to reframe this for this client, or hey, this case is too tough for us. We got to let it go. One of the things that I'm doing right now as a small firm is there's a case that I'm like, oh, it's a case. I can try to save it. And man, you could have a huge firm try to take that case and they're going to struggle with it. Why am I still
Yeah.
trying to work on this case when it's looking really rough and I'm just delaying hurting someone's feelings, disappointing
Yeah.
the client? And I think sometimes it's setting your ego aside and saying, I know this is going to hurt somebody's feelings. I know I'm going to look like, maybe not the best, not the hero that I want to be right now. But sometimes, again, you have to set your own feelings aside for doing what's right.
Yep.
And that hurts. It sucks. It really is a tough thing.
Learning to say no to cases and to people's problems is is so hard in the beginning because you want to say yes to everything, but understanding as somebody who has taken on more dogs with fleas of cases, they don't get better. They
I want to
very
just get every
rarely
stray cat I
improve.
can, man.
You just can't. And
Guys,
listen, if we're
what are
getting
the
into puns like juice is worth the squeeze, all of those. But Joe, I wanted to kind of touch on real quick because we didn't do this. Rolando, what type of cases are you looking for? What are the kind of work that you are? Obviously, we know you're based in Dallas region, but what's a good referral for you? What are the types of work that you really find enjoyment in doing?
Man, thank you. I think the big thing is, well, there's a reason that I started my firm also as a bilingual attorney. A lot of our members in our community, a lot of our neighbors right now, they're being challenged in their ability to enforce their rights. In Texas, for example, just being undocumented doesn't mean that you don't have the right to make a personal injury claim.
Right.
That's from our Texas Supreme Court. So one is I definitely want to speak up for people like my parents who came to this country. They are, people who are members of our community. They are people who have rights. And when I was little, when they didn't speak a lot of English coming in, I had to translate documents for them. And I'm trying to explain as a 10-year-old what this bill means that we're behind on because our house is about to get foreclosed on or we got our car repossessed. They don't know what this stuff means or what our rights are. So nobody should feel alone in dealing with knowing how to enforce their rights. So the best clients for me are the ones who obviously we work in personal injury. So if you're in a car wreck or if you're a worker and you're hurt on site, you're being taught that your pain doesn't matter. And it does matter, and you do have rights. So those are the right clients for me, especially if they need a Spanish speaking lawyer or someone who is bilingual, who can navigate culture and language in a way that makes them not afraid. Because, Sean, as you know from your client success depends on trust, and that's something that I've seen how you work. Sean was kind enough to help. I had a personal connection get injured in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
And I knew instantly this was the guy to call. And I know that guy's being taken care of right now because he was excited. And I know you're helping him on his case. When you have a real lawyer who cares and they can commit to service, you have no problem trusting that lawyer because that lawyer is going to develop the trust with that client. And the trust between the two is what drives the success in the case. For my clients, they need trust from a lawyer who can talk to them, understand them in their language sometimes. So those are the type of clients that I want to serve and I've done well in.
It's interesting. So the types of, like Sean had asked, so when they talk about PI, what, and let's kind of cap a little bit of the exact type of cases. Obviously, auto cases, but you mentioned also people on the job. Talk about the wide array of
Near
cases.
and dear to Joe and I's heart.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
what you just said, man, is impacting the types of cases. If you would kind of recap that of the types of cases that you come across your plate.
Yeah. So work injury cases in Texas, which is unique than any other state in the country, you can opt out of workers' compensation. So if you get hurt on the job, your employer may not have any coverage for you to pay for your benefits or your bills if you get hurt while working for them. Something that Texas does to allow businesses to opt out. Okay. So a lot of times businesses here use that as leverage, saying, look, I can get cheap disposable labor where if they get hurt on the job because I don't have protective gear or training or standards, it doesn't matter because I can go get another guy, even though that the person that just got hurt has hospital bills. I'll give you two examples. One, I had a guy from Honduras who was dealing with our Parkland hospital system because he doesn't have insurance. He was hurt on the job delivering for years, delivering freight to a warehouse, and the ramp was malfunctioning, so it amputated his finger. He lost his whole index finger. He was just sitting there thinking that he's just stuck with this debt for the rest of his life, and he lost his finger. There's nothing to show for it. once he found out about our firm, we were able to get him a settlement out of court. We never had to deal with going even to trial. We were able to negotiate on his behalf and get him almost $500,000 in his pocket. Now, that doesn't make up for being hurt or losing your finger, and there's other issues that go into these types of cases. But the point is, in other countries, they don't even have the concept of if somebody hurts you because they weren't doing what was right on the job or on the road, that you can make a claim and get money and compensation for that. Other countries don't have that. So they come to this
Right.
country not knowing that they have rights, and they're also afraid to raise their rights because they think that there might be exploitation that further happens. And that's why these people have to be protected in particular.
I mean, I can tell you, we've done a lot of shows on this, okay, and especially immigrants get taken advantage of, okay, not to mention undocumented. So you have, so we did. This is a big labor, town, okay, union town, and so, but just because and we do the union show, I just got finished it. It was my show right before we had Senator Sharif Street on, and you know,
Sharif's a real one. Love him.
oh yeah, he is. And so, but the thing is, our rights and our protections, and obviously our wages are important. But the thing is, you have representation against employers that will otherwise, take advantage of you. A lot of people in circumstances where labor unions are not at the forefront get taken advantage. And the only thing that makes them even gives them a chance is somebody like you, and it's the contingency fee agreement, right?
Oh yeah, I'm 100% contingency, so no risk to my clients. I front all the expenses, and if we lose, I'll eat everything. You never pay me anything, so
It's huge.
it's the only way. It's the only way you can get a lawyer like Sean with his resources, or someone like me who's young and hungry in his firm that will go to the mat for you. And it's really hard to find lawyers to do that any other way. And frankly, most people can't afford to hire a lawyer if you get in trouble. So how are you going to get top-notch representation? Hey, just like Sean, when I started my career, I was facing off against multi-billion-dollar companies with unlimited resources
Yep.
and big-time big law lawyers that used to be my classmates, and they know what they're doing, right? So you have to understand the odds are stacked up against you. So if these companies have their own lawyers, why don't you have your own? That the contingency fee agreement, no risk. I think is the fairest way to do it, and that's what we do.
Yeah, the best way I've described it, that's the slingshot, right? We are David taking down Goliath, and that contingency fee agreement, that relationship that we're taking the risk on, that's our slingshot, and gives people kind of that opportunity to really take down the big guys at no upfront cost to them. Listen, I think Joe was hinted on too is, and Rolando knows this. I've been vocal in my support of immigrant communities, immigrant lawyers. We're all immigrants unless we are of Native American descent. So let's be really real about conversations in this country these days about protecting immigrant communities. As Charles Barkley said the other day, immigrants built this country, and we should start putting some respect on them.
And Rolando, I really appreciate your sentiments about your parents and the inspiration. Okay, it's so important, no question about it. And by the way, it's what that passion and that inspiration that you carry on from those examples. Okay, carries over not only at your firm, but also with your clients. And so, man, that is what it's all about. And now more than ever, we have to be committed, to giving everybody a fair shot. And so, that, by the way, is, we also call it, Sean, the great equalizer, the contingency fee. Because by the way, people are hurt, they're out, they're injured or whatever. Tell you what, the next time we get on the broadcast, we'll talk about auto insurance and all that stuff. And I'm definitely interested in seeing how it is in Dallas.
Oh, and the tort reform efforts going on, hardcore. These pro-business, pro-insurance lobbies that he's facing off, every day in Texas are crazy. But Rolando, if somebody wants to connect with you, what's a good way for either a prospective client, one of our friends out there that might run their own law firm, what's a good way to connect? How do you want people to reach out to you?
I'm on the socials, Guardia Law. Our phone number is 214-380-4000. In Spanish, tu llamada, Guardia Law, 214-380-4000. We're here to serve our people, our friends, our neighbors, and nobody gets pushed around at our firm. So
Awesome. Sean, if you will.
Yeah, listen, you can hit us up at quinnlawyers.com. You can always find me out there. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and pretty much everywhere. So you can always shoot me an email if you're a lawyer, founder, want to get on the pod, Sean at quinnlawyers.com.
Awesome. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Top Lawyer with Sean Quinn. We want to thank Rolando Quesada of Guardia Law in Dallas, Texas, for joining us on the program. Of course, on behalf of our host, Sean